Well, good morning, everyone. And every day is you rise is a great day to be alive. And welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And this is our Hot Topics Monday. I'm Slim Overton, and along here with co-host Thomas the Colonel Chapman. Leah won't be with us today, but we will get into the hot topics today. And Colonel, I wanted to start something locally. A few things. The last Friday they had Portsmouth had the State of the Union, not State of the Union, State of the City address by the mayor, and a few things were announced. But I wanted to just play this, start with this story about uh, some attention paid to women and new births because Portsmouth has one of the highest rates of birth rate, non-birth rate care. So there's some things going on as far as education to help some of the ladies. So I'll start with this, and then we'll talk about some of the other things, and then you can go into the national stories, which is always something to talk about during Hot Topics Monday. But first of all, how you doing today, Colonel?
Yeah, every day is a good day. Every day is a good day. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead and see what they said, for the
yeah.
State of the Union or State of the State or State of the City. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Unusual place to take a childbirth class, but that's where Centera Health is offering them once a month. I'm Erica Craven, your neighborhood Portsmouth reporter, and I'm learning more about the recent push to improve access to maternal health care. Moxie Watts is eager for her first baby's arrival. I've done everything to prepare. She's been to checkups and classes, including the free one in Portsmouth. I feel a lot more comfortable with labor process. I was able to ask questions. While she's glad of the help she's had, Iris Lundy with Centera Health explains that many mothers struggle to access care. There is an educational barrier. Can we get people out in the community in a place where you feel psychologically safe enough to receive that education? What about transportation? Is there a barrier there? I mean, you have to go, some who live in Portsmouth have to come through the tunnel. Adequate maternal care from prenatal to birth through postpartum generally leads to better outcomes for mothers and babies, according to the CDC and Commonwealth Fund research. That's as research shows the U.S., the high-income nation least likely to have support like home visits or paid leave, also has the highest maternal death rate, with Black mothers disproportionately impacted. The majority of maternal deaths, researchers find, are preventable. Labor and delivery nurse Teresita Hammond's been a part of the push to improve outcomes and access, teaching the classes out in the community. We're in a relaxed environment. I think people are drawn to that. She wants every family to be set up for success. We have to be there when they need us. It takes a village. And everybody deserves to be seen. Every woman deserves to be heard. And every woman deserves to be believed. Of course, that's
Okay, I wanted to start with that because, Colonel, and being in the medical field, like one of the things she mentioned about the high maternity death rates, especially among African Americans, and it's kind of high here in the city of Portsmouth. So these are classes designed to help educate, and Portsmouth is one of the cities in Hampton Roads where we don't have a hospital where children can be born. The Maryview has discontinued the opportunity for uh, children to be born in the city of Portsmouth. To me, that's alarming. But beyond that, with the maternity birth rate being so high, the education of many of the mothers out there is so important. Making sure they get the proper care, as they approach motherhood. And that hadn't always been the case, and the story has been gone kind of underreported because most of the time you hear about the successful births and everything like that. So I wanted to start with that, and as we talk about some of the other things locally here in the city of Portsmouth that were addressed at the State of the Union. But often some of these stories like this, people just don't know about it, and people are suffering, and that's what we're here for, to tell some of those stories that you don't hear about.
You're so correct. And one of the things too of being a healthcare executive, OB care is expensive, especially at the delivery end of it, and you're talking about Maryview no longer doing that because it is expensive to hire, train, and maintain, especially the maintenance piece of a OB or delivery staff, because it has to be there 24 hours a day, ready to go, and to take care of those mothers. And the reimbursement rates are so small for the hospitals, and so you really almost have to have an assembly line to make it cost effective to do that. And so that's one reason Maryview got rid of it. And so the other piece is the liability piece, because you have all these mothers that don't get prenatal care, and the minute they deliver a baby and something is wrong, and you have a genetic defect or something that they may have caused because smoking, drinking, drugs, or whatever, they want to go down there and see a lawyer and try to sue. And so you have to add that into the equation of cost of care. And so it's not cost effective for me to do that. The other piece is, since the Republicans are always in charge and they've been nipping at the Medicaid reimbursement, because a lot of these mothers don't have insurance, so they get Medicaid pays for the delivery. So they have some reimbursements for the delivery, but the Republicans says you can bring these children into the earth or bring them into the world, but we're not going to help you on the other end. And so if you're an unwed mother, your chances of succeeding go down as far as going up on the educational and economic ladders. And so, you've got a foot in the, you're walking around with one leg with a cement cast on in a world you need to run fast to keep up, especially if you're a person of color. And there are some that, we have successes in there, but the majority basically are saying you're done and you're into the system. And now you look at what they're looking at, this $880 billion cut that they're looking so they can get their tax cuts through, and the cuts to Medicaid. It's going to be even further cuts to Medicaid. And they're either supposing this put a 2-year cap on Medicaid. So all those people that have been on Medicaid forever, just think, in 2 years, you are done. No more money, no more checks. And so it's going to be a real revamping of healthcare across this country, especially in the rural areas where Medicaid pays the majority of to keep these hospitals open, especially in these in the rural areas. And you also look at Medicaid also is the number one payer or reimbursement for those people in a nursing home. What are you going to do with that? And so we are coming to a reckoning where this regime that is in office with the white supremacists at the head is looking to change how in the name of getting tax cuts to his billionaire buddies, are going to throw a lot of people, as they say, off the proverbial bus. So that's quick and dirty about that. So, but one other thing I want to mention though, they always throw these carrots out, and it was talking about putting a $5,000 bonus for new kids born in this country. Don't fall for the okie doke. It'll never get past Congress because it'll be a benefit to somebody, black, white, or brown, whatever. They don't want that. And they only want white babies born for that, if they could ever get it through. So don't throw, telling that they want white babies born and not people of color, because they're looking at the statistics where they will be in the minority in a decade or so, couple decades, and they just can't have that. That's why you have the advent of DEI is trying to wipe out Black history and wipe out Black folks and firing Black folks from the federal government, because we want to shorten down things and take the economic ladders away from people, because the majority of the people being laid off in the federal government now are Black and brown people. The white folks that are being laid off in civil service, they'll be rehired at higher rates than we will, even though we'll be more qualified, more educated, and do better as far as our efficiency rates and all this. But they'll use the DEI, meaning DEI is did not earn it program. And that's phase 2 of the DEI push. So what say you?
Yeah, I say that, what I brought up that was a local issue is also a national issue, and you added some of the other things as far as Medicaid, which a lot of people depend on that, especially when it comes down to mothers giving birth. A lot of that. So, and then you did explain why Merview ended the opportunity for people to go there and have babies, and it's by being the only hospital. It's just it might be important to some people to have their child born. The certificate says born in Portsmouth, and at this point now, that's not going to happen, not unless there's some way that you can be born in Norfolk and have on your birth certificate that you are a resident of Portsmouth. But I don't think that happens. Wherever you're born, that's what the birth certificate says. So.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want people to be aware of these things and the things you brought up about Medicaid and all the things that the administration is trying to do that's going to hurt a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And often with all these other distractions, these stories don't get out there and people don't know about it except for the people that are directly involved. And you need to know about these stories because it might be your future, especially young people, or if you're a grandparent, your grandchildren might be affected by all this. So just wanted to bring that up. And going back to some other stories about the state of the city, unfortunately, of course, the long-awaited hotel is coming for the casino. The mayor announced that it's 2 years ahead of schedule, but one of the reasons they didn't build it right away because they wanted to gauge how the business was so they could figure out what scale of hotel they would put there. And it looks like they're putting a pretty luxury based hotel there, 65 million. And it's slating the hotel rooms to be luxury rooms and suites, with 2 of them they're calling super suites. And it's very important to be ready in 2027. And it's very important that they jump on that with Norfolk upcoming with their casino, having, already places, hotel to stay. And we just have one hotel. So this is going to be a definite plus. And the location of it right off 264 where it's visible for people traveling can see, bring more attention to the casino. So we'll see. It's in the works now. One thing that was kind of funny to me, I remember when it was going on, a former council person was always against it and said the casino deal was a bad deal and the hotel should be built right away. And they didn't put that in the contract. And it was funny when they had the grand opening, he was the first person I saw in there on spending money. But anyway, it was a reason why they didn't build the hotel right away. You didn't want to get that wrong, it'd be understated hotel or overstated hotel. So that's coming, and I guess that's pretty good news, and hopefully the casino will benefit from it, and people visiting Portsmouth for Portsmouth events will have more places to stay other than the Renaissance, because the Renaissance will fill up pretty quickly. And people will be at an event in Portsmouth and have to stay in Norfolk. So that's a bit of the good news, and hopefully they're on track with the date early 2027 with the groundbreaking per se. starting late this summer. But it's going to be attached to the casino, so they don't have to break ground. Uh,
Well, you know
how
what?
do you feel about that?
Well, yes, I always said they needed to build it early, and we can't whitewash to say that yes, this was a business decision, and because Norfolk has broken the ground and they have done the right thing as far as they've already had an infrastructure for other hotels, and their new casino when it gets built will already have other hotels in the area. Plus, we'll have hotels from this new casino that they're building, and it'll always have entertainment and stuff like that already built into the area, the area that they're coming to. So, but you mentioned this, they say a luxury, and they say luxury. So the question was, I don't think it was answered, and maybe is what brand of hotel and what they call luxury?
Well, it's actually going to be their brand. It's going to be called the Landing Hotel Portsmouth, and there are other casinos in Pittsburgh, I think, and another location already have their brand. So it's pretty much their brand.
Yeah.
Because that was I was looking for. Is it going to be Holiday Inn? Is going to be that kind of flagship hotel? But they're coming with their own brand, which they've already say has been proven to be pretty successful and as far as the luxury. So they had some renditions that they showed on the video at the event. I wasn't there, but I saw the
So
excuse me, I saw the videos later. So hopefully what they're saying they're going to build, that's what's going to be there.
So yeah, so when you say luxury, when you say the Holiday Inn, I don't equate the Holiday Inn being on the luxury end of a hotel.
Yeah.
And so that's a misnomer there, because if you
that's why I was saying I wasn't calling them a luxury. I was saying that using a flagship like that Holiday Inn, you don't see it that as much as you see the Marriott or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have said the Marriott.
Yeah, to equate the Holiday Inn as a luxury that's just a mid-range, stay as you go around the highway, and I ain't got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I hear you. When we were little, it used to be the place, but you're right. But should have compared it to something else. But
yeah. So the other thing is, you mentioned the Renaissance, who has been there. I don't know how long they've been there for decades. And I wonder what the occupancy there is now. So they're going to have to step up their game and look at renovation also, if they want to keep up into their hotel rooms and the spaces they have there. If they want, if you're a business person that owns a Renaissance, so I'm putting a plug in your ear, you need to step up your game, and you're going to have to do some renovations to your room and the infrastructure down there at the Renaissance. So that's another thing. So I guess I made a comment on that. So, but I did want to get back, when I go back to the healthcare piece, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the crazy man with the worm in his head. For those who are getting healthcare in the future, I guess you saw in the news where he wants to put placebos out there for vaccinations again. Meaning when you take your child to get their measles, say for measles, since we're having a nationwide outbreak of measles, your child may get instead of getting the measles vaccine that they need to keep them from getting measles, they may get some sugar water. Back in the day, we call sugar water. And I see that there will be disproportionary amount of Black and brown people getting the sugar, what we call the sugar water, placebo, versus the others getting the real vaccinations. And you look at the data that he will collect will be skewed. And so we're getting ready to enter into a decades long, because they're in our office for these 4 years, hopefully no more than these 4 years, that will take a decade plus to correct the mistakes and to fix the problems that this regime is creating during this little bit of time that they're going to be here on Earth. So if you're going to do that, before he can implement this program, make sure all your kids get their vaccinations when you know they're getting the real stuff. And say if you haven't got your COVID vaccines and stuff like that, go ahead and get your boosters now before they'll be given for the next COVID outbreak, and you'll be getting a sugar water, and you find yourself up, and why am I have disproportionary, why I'm down on the ventilator, and this vaccine didn't work because they're studying it. So that's another comment that I had to go with the healthcare piece.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I wanted to sort of bring that up about the vaccination, especially with new births. You know, a lot of those young mothers are not educated about, or they listen to the wrong thing and don't want to vaccinate their children. You know, because they're listening to the wrong thing, and that could be a problem. But before we move on, I want to go back to the state of the city once, because one thing that concerned me that they were talking about, and well, I'm glad to hear it. They're talking about they've already moved the jail, the inmates to the regional facility that they had now, Point Homes. So now they're talking about really renovating the waterfront, tearing down the jail, and making it, a destination for development. My thing is, I'm glad to see it happen, but we've been talking about this since the late '80s, and to hear the news, to hear the announcement, and then right on the back end to say, well, for the next 90 days, we'll be studying plans and talking to the Economic Development Office and citizens, which is good, but it's been several plans in place, and we've been going through this, and what sort of concerns me, the next 90 days, anything could happen. I just have to wait and see. I'm glad they announced it, but I've heard so many state of the city addresses where they announced the development of the waterfront. And I hope this is the last time that it's talked about and action follows, because we're talking, like you said, we're talking decades of talks. And many of those talks, I was involved as a member of the Planning Commission and the EDA, at different times. And, those, it should have already been done. That's what I'm saying. So I don't want to be Mr. Negative about the news that's been put out, but follow through this time. I don't see what it takes 90 days to reinvent the wheel, to go over studies that's already been done, pull out some of those old studies and tweak them, to meet the modern standards, but to look like you're starting again at square one is concerning to me. But I'm glad, on the other hand, that it's still in the talks, and I'll be watching to see how quickly we move forward on this, especially now, since this is the first time when the talks came up that the inmates are actually moved away from the facility. That has been one of the holdups. What do we do with the inmates, that are housed there? So the sheriff was asking for a new jail to be built. So now they have the inmates in another facility that we used to share with other cities. It used to be a regional jail. So now it's Portsmouth jail. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And the last thing I'll bring up that was one of the big announcements is a $200 million trash facility that we're going to invest in. We are like a test city for the this facility, which involved a lot of AI, you know. So we've been testing it. So now I think the city is going to go ahead and do it, and other cities will look at it and follow suit. So I'm just wondering, you know, that's a lot of money, and as we talk about other needs throughout the city. So we'll see how that's going to be budgeted, and because we need adequate trash facilities, you know, in order to collect, you know. We've been kind of lacking in that. You know, sometimes the trash is picked up, sometimes it's not on the designated day. So we need something to bring us into the 21st century as far as trash collection and how we redistribute that trash into something that can be used at a later point, and how you separate, you know, things that we can't use and keep what we can use as future fuel. You know, a lot of the shipyard is fueled by some of the excess trash that is created through the facility. So all these things sound good. It always is a good presentation at the state of the city, but we always have to see, how do we follow through? Will this council stay true to the commitment they make at the state of the city? And how would it benefit the citizens? And don't forget about all the other needs that the citizens have. And he also mentioned that crime was down 18%. We still have it, but anytime you have any kind of drop in that, I guess, and he said overall crime, you know, so that could be less break-ins, less car thefts, less, you know, how much a reduction do we have in shootings and murders? Hopefully it's a reduction there as well. So that's my take on the state of the city. You know, we just have to, I hope people get a chance to watch it and hold all those elected officials involved and the appointed officials involved accountable for all the things that they commit to doing a event like that, you know, where everybody comes, you know, eats and everything looks rosy and everything, but then tomorrow comes and reality sets in. You know, how we're going to do this, when we're going to do this, if we're going to do this, and what about all the other issues? So that's my take on that. Yes.
You mentioned 200 million. Was that for the dump, you said?
That's for the trash facility. That's what they mentioned. And I have to, the story I saw didn't go deep into that, except the announcement of it and talking about us being a test city for more AI involvement in the trash facilities, which probably would cut out some jobs, because a lot of that work is done by hands separating the trash. So the AI probably will be more efficient, but it's going to cut out some jobs, and hope some of those jobs that those people were doing can be redistributed somewhere else, as opposed to them losing their jobs. But the AI, that's the way the world is going. So
well, let me clarify.
My thing is, if we spend that much on it, I hope some of that trash can be reused in order to fuel something else or benefit us in another way, because other places are using their trash in a more in an effective way. Like I mentioned, the shipyard uses a lot of that trash too.
Yeah. So I'll go back to first, those jobs aren't going to be reallocated, because those jobs either will be gone or not hired, because you're not going to have an increase in the workforce, because the AI is here to save money. And so if you're not on board with the educational piece to help with the infrastructure of AI and the implementation of it, then you're going to be left at the sidewalk. The other piece is this $200 million. So I know they didn't give any specifics on how are they going to finance this, $200 million? Are they going to float another bond issues, or are they just going to tack it on to the backs of the people as far as real estate taxes? And so that $200 million will probably be tacked on to your refuge tax that you pay for your regular tax or your regular bill for for your trash collection. And so they'll probably get into more recycling and everything. And you really can't, City of Portsmouth doesn't have the area that you can build another dump per se, because it doesn't have the area. Because once you build a big dump per se, like they had, like when they did in Virginia Beach or whatever, that area is no longer used for apartments or houses or whatever. And so you really can't do that. So they're going to have to use this to how they're going to outsource some of this extra trash. And you mentioned the federal government and the shipyard having these massive amount of trash. They just have to be, federal government needs to be charged more with the trash that they bring out of those gates over there. And somebody has to stand up and says, you have to find somewhere else to put it at a higher rate. If we are doing the intermediate piece, is filling up our areas that we're using for dumping that trash and recycling, and even do more on the recycling end. And so that's going to be up for the city and city manager to start managing this stuff correctly, which they haven't done in the past. Well, you got ready to say something?
We'll try to bring somebody in to explain that. Hopefully, since, like I said, we're at the test city and other cities are looking at doing the same, that it'll be more of a regional effort as far as financing and things like that. That might already be in place. So we'll bring somebody in that can give us details about that. That seems like a big load for Portsmouth to take on, as far as that's concerned. So I'm thinking that it might be more of a regional thing and just needs to be explained a little bit better. But
should be regional, but that's why I bring this up. And so when they want to tack this on, so when they talk about these big 200 million, they will say $200 million projects, somebody's got to pay for that. And how? Give me the details. I know they're used to just shooting off saying this is going to be $200 million, going to create some, 10 jobs or whatever, 10, 20, 30 jobs. That's going to go, that's about it. Cost per dollar per job is not worth it. But the folks of Portsmouth that have property there, if you're going to tag all that money on to me on my real estate taxes and my trash collection, that's going to be shared amongst all the consumers there, and big businesses and like the federal government continues to do that without a negligible increase in their monies that they pay. People, as I say, the little people shoulder the cost of this. And so we have to be clear with that and not let them double speak and say, hey, we got this and this is so-called progress, but who's paying for all this crap? So so I had to bring that up. So, but I will really circle back down to where you talked about the jail being gone. And so I know the sheriff's talked about building another jail. And so we have to look at the jail. So the money that's going to go into a new jail has to be paid for. And it also gets into the new or especially in this regime that's in the White House, fuels the school to prison population, and that jail and that prison industrial complex that is out there. And so we have to look at programs to keep people out of these jails. And is it more cost effective to say this, what it costs to redevelop that the regional jail you have down there, and to make it useful and to bring it up to standards, and what are the programs to keep people out of jail? Is it more cost effective? If it's going to cost me, say, $50,000 a year to hold, such prisoner. And I could take that 50,000. I can educate one of these young men, to send them to one of the universities, to a trade school, and they can be upstanding citizens and coming back into society rather than, it's not 50,000 is probably cheap. It's probably costing me probably $75,000 to $100,000 per prisoner down there. And so it's just not a good use of my taxpayer dollars. And so we have to look at all those programs and what you're locking, people up, especially people of color. If you walk through the jails now and look at and look at the demographics of who's being locked up now.
Yeah, and by you saying that, I have to mention that Judge Johnny Morrison, who is will be retiring in another year, created a program called the Drug Court. And I think it's been about 25 years now, which the people that normally, and you know how a lot of people, especially of color, have been locked up for drug use, for being users, not distributors. So he created the drug court where these people that were caught and facing jail time could go through the program and successfully had to meet some strict criteria while they're in the program, and would be out of jail while they're going through that. They have to be tested every so often, and if they get a bad test, straight to jail. But it's been very successful. It kept a lot of people out of jail, and it's amazed to see people have a conception of who these people are that are drug users that are caught up in there. And the drug court is open so people can go there and see. And you'd be amazed at the people that get caught up in that. It's not what you might think your typical drug user. These are sometimes professional people, but everybody gets a fair shot. And it's one of those programs like you're talking about, and probably needs more of them to keep people out there, to stop the recidivism, returning back to jail, after you've already spent some time. So there's some programs in place, and hopefully that will do what you're saying, so you don't have to add on to the jail. As a matter of fact, Trump is talked about reopening Alcatraz. I think that's another distraction, but in a way, but he's probably serious about that because he probably wants to. The reason it closed because it was outdated and structural problems and things like that. And he wants to reopen that. I guess that's another place he wants to put undocumented,
black and brown,
or anybody.
Yeah, or any,
just put anybody.
Put black and brown people. Just make it clear. Yeah. He just wants black and brown people in these jails. And we had a guest on 2 weeks ago who talked about the number one industry in the state of I think he was talking about Georgia and North Carolina is the prison use.
Yes, the private prison.
Yeah, in the private prisons. That's what they're doing, as he just puts this crap out that the Democrats and the news media spins up, but behind the scenes, him and Stephen Miller, the other white supremacist that he has out there, who is now, they're saying that he might be the new national security advisor. What they're doing behind the doors, behind the door number 3 is building these private prisons so they can, instead of having that $100,000 to put them down here, I'm charging federal government and the government $200,000 so I can take off the top and just make money off of black and brown people in these jails. And you go there and you don't even have a charge, you get some trumped up charge because, the police force is in cahoots with them. And, you get a simple ticket or whatever if you survive it. That $5 light bulb that you got, and they trump up some stuff, and you got a felony, and you got to wait there a year going to the court system. So let me fast forward there. You're talking about Johnny Morrison, who's going to retire next year. We also have an election for the new governor coming up. Who is going to appoint the replacement for Johnny Morrison?
It's already been done.
Okay, but judges like Johnny Morrison. So black and brown judges out there. So do you want a Democrat appointing fair justices, or do you want somebody like the Republican Miss Crazy, Miss Hairdo, Lieutenant Governor Spears, who doesn't care about nothing? She's trying to soften herself now as the appointing judges out there. You don't want, and we're in a primary system now, or primary season now for early voting. And I get back to that. People need to come out and vote and put all these Republicans out of business. Send them away because they are evil and they don't want nothing to do with you and they're after you. And so you got to get out here and vote in 25 and 26. So let me go on from there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Johnny Morrison and Ken Melvin and Judge Ken Melvin are retiring, and they've already Louis Lucas has been on that judicial committee for years, so they've already appointed 4 new black judges.
Mhm.
So and white judges as well, but they've been pretty consistent as keeping the judges in the city of Portsmouth equal to the population that we have in the city of Portsmouth. So that's been done. Speaking of judges, what do you think about Justice Jackson speaking out against, and some of the other judges that are starting to fight back, and Trump saying that the judges are trying to tell him what to do? Well, as far as the law is concerned, as far as the interpretation of the Constitution, they voted 9-0 that he violated due process. So they're not trying to tell you what to do. They're doing their job, not stopping you from doing your job. So Justice Jackson is speaking out against, probably not calling his name out per se, but everybody knows who she's talking about when she is talking about how this man is trying to circumvent the law to do the things that he wants to do with all his 140 executive orders that he's put out, some define what the judges say. And I think more and more you're going to get the judges speaking out, because at some point those judges have big egos too, just like the president. And most of them that have a backbone are not going to stand for, even some that are elected by or appointed by Republican presidents are not going to stand for being spit in their face, when they're sitting judges, in high places and trying to follow the letter of the law, and have this person just saying, I'm not going to do it because I'm the president. So hopefully sooner than later, more judges will do. But, they are doing it, Colonel, but he's defining. So what do you think is going to eventually stop him? Are they going to have to, well, even if they charge him with contempt, they've already previously gave him, the leeway not to be, he could do anything he wants, pretty much. And now it's come back to bite him in the ass.
Well, you talk about
something they did.
Yeah, that one judgment on 9-0. Yes, that case was so far out there that they had to vote 9-0. But look at the rest of the votes of that. There's always 2 votes with Justice Alito and Clarence Uncle Tom up there, and Uncle Clarence. They will always vote vote with Trump no matter what he says, because those 2 justices are being bought and paid for, and so they'll do anything to keep them checks rolling to their families. So this mob boss in the White House does not care about the Constitution. He's never read it. He's got a copy up there. And I think a reporter asked him last week, he says, look over to your left or right or whatever, over his shoulder. And they got a copy of the Constitution, and which the archives says, don't bring it out here because it's going to further deteriorate this Constitution because it's out of, it's not supposed to be in sunlight and all this da. Well, he couldn't even tell what the Constitution meant. All he could say is, they asked him what the Constitution means. And he says, oh, it's a beautiful document and it's so pretty, and didn't even know what's in the Constitution. So he has no clue. And basically, he's an old man that has dementia or beginning dementia, but he is true to his roots as being a stone cold racist and white supremacist that is allowing the rest of his boys, Stephen Miller and the rest of them gangs, to just take over our government, and with the intent of installing a dictator, running us to segregation first, and then the second step is to keep power through a new dictatorship that is coming down the road. And that's where we're heading, because if you destroy the free press, which he's doing, you attack the Justice Department and destroy them, and you've already got the executive branch and the legislative branch, because of the GOP owns the Senate and the House of Representatives, who are just llamas. They'll just run off the cliff for this man because they too are afraid. Then basically you have set up this government, this democracy, this experiment in democracy that is held for these 250 years, that will probably is in a death spiral unless we stand up.
Well, I guess it's mostly let's see. First of all, good morning. Leah came on and said good morning. I see she has a comment. Let me put her comment up. She's spelling out the judges that have been appointed. Mike Massey, Lavonda Graham Williams, and Moody, the young man's been appointed to the. So he has replaced them with competent judges,
like-minded people, like-minded judges, fair judges. So yes,
like-minded fair judges.
Yes. So long as Senator Lucas and Delegate Scott and our leaders are appointing the judges or filling those judges in, we'll be able to stay that way. But you still need the governor and the governor's seat in Democratic hands to keep the ball rolling. And that's why we have to get rid of this Confederate governor here that is term limited, and keep people out like Spears out of that seat that really doesn't care about us. But what say you?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the comments over there.
Yeah.
You were talking about the local judges and the appointments and be a like-minded.
Yeah. Fair judges, and not these right-wing kooks that Spears will be putting in when she's if she sends to the governorship.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. that's another reason to make sure you look at the track record of how the judges that have been appointed by Republican administrations, and you might want to stay away from that.
You just said, Tupac said it years ago, I'm waiting at the courtroom, waiting for the outcome. Yeah. And the outcome is not going to be good, especially if it's Republican. You see the sentences, you can do all the studies that you want, but outcomes from a Republican judge against Black and brown people, you are not going to fare well.
You know, I watched parts of Meet the Press this weekend where, you know, because Trump usually goes to friendly to him, like Fox, and even they have been reporting real figures. They reported his low figures like 38%. He got mad at that, but he went to Meet the Press, and so I didn't watch the full interview, but what I saw, I was kind of disappointed because I thought on Meet the Press, Kristen Welker is the commentator on there, and I thought she would be more push back on more of his stuff, and of course he was his same bully self, talking over her and not answering the questions and just telling his lies. Where as a commentator, you can stop him right in his tracks and say, okay, hey, you know, but by the time he tells about 10 lies, then you have to go back, you know, and cover all those 10 lies, and you're trying to move the conversation forward, but you have to stop him after each lie. And I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't more pushback on him when he goes to one. And that's Fox, you know, shows their bias, and then he comes to, you know, what they might call a centrist. You know, they don't want to consider themselves right wing or left wing reporting, but you got to push back on the truth, and you can't let this guy just come on there. And everywhere he goes, he uses them to his advantage. And for them to let him come on there and just bully his way through the questions, not answering the questions, and lie about. He actually said, and I told you about this. He said after a question she asked him, all the good things that happened is his administration. All the bad things is Biden's administration. And clearly, you know, now it's his administration, and you can see all him and his cronies always revert back to Biden, where Biden is off sunning somewhere. You know, he's done his job, but you can't blame things coming in. You just been here 100 days and say, I just been here 3 months, so I can't do that. And then take credit for the good things that happen. He mentioned about some states, gas is like $1.98. What states are they? You know, you got to mention what state. I haven't seen $1.98 probably in a long time. You know, when it's like $2, you know, you're saying, okay, that's okay. But you know, just making those blanket statements and it's just so frustrating, Colonel, to see them. You know, I guess you want to put yourself in that place and say, man, come on, ask him, stop him. You know, ask him to prove that. Where does he get that? What is he? He just says it, and people believe him because it came out of his mouth, and he knows what he's doing. He lie after lie after lie after lie. So by the time you can't go back and cover all those lies because he stole so many. And, I know. And that's his tactic. But somebody has to know how to handle that. You're sitting right in front of him.
Yeah. He's been doing this for decades. And what you have to do is, like you see the scrolling on below the this pictures, you just put this is if Mr. Trump's mouth is moving, it is a lie. And this interview is for entertainment purposes only. And then and then you also say, and you have a secondary, like if he says gas was $1.98 and I push back and says where is it $1.98?
Yeah, what states?
And he says, he always uses line is people are saying. What people are saying? Give me a source that's saying this.
Yeah, they let him get away with generalization,
and then say
and not proving where whatever facts he's quoting where it comes from.
You have to cut him off. You have to cut him off and stand.
You have to cut him off.
You have to cut him off. And I know
when she did cut him off, Colonel, she did cut him off, that's when he goes into, oh, this is a nasty interview. That's his, and then whoever the interviewer is backs off because they're afraid he might get up and walk away or something like that. And they're glad they even got the interview but you got to be able to, excuse me, go at him. And if he walks away, that looks bad on his part, not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And
but then for the next forever, for eternity, you talk about what is the truth. Gas is not $1.98 anywhere in this country. Or price of eggs is up. They need to be, the Democrats also need to be on news and giving these and say about what is the truth. And
he said that was down.
Yeah, he says that. And so you have to give counter programming to this. And then when you refer to Fox, you talk about Fox, you just say you refer to them as state-run TV because they're in the pockets of the Trump. And they are starting to say, if you see anybody on Fox trying to say something is not according to the message, you know things are bad if they're trying to tell a blade of truth. And so you just got to push back. It may be that you might be thrown off of, like AP is thrown off that, but you just write the truth and you keep up. And then if more of these news organizations start writing these real stories and saying the truth about the statistics, how bad things are, then he won't be able to, he can put up all the right-wing newsstand like Breitbart and all this other stuff. That's all he'll be talking to. But let him talk to that. He's only talking to his base, but we have to talk to the rest of the people out here. I know we're getting down to 3 minutes here.
Yeah. I wouldn't bring him on. I wouldn't bring him on if you're not going to challenge him, because you know how he is. But I think they're more looking for ratings by having the president on than they are concerned about approaching him with the truth or forcing him to either explain or give facts where he gets the information from. Because even on Fox, he went after Howard Kurtz and Karl Rove, two mainstays, and they told one needs to retire and the other one needs to be told a big loser. And then they still gonna bring him on there and kiss his butt. Yeah. But anytime they report real news, like his favorable ratings of 38%, or talk about the firing of Mike Waltz instead of the real guy they should have fired. Mm-hmm. You know, he comes at him. You know, I don't know. You know, if we don't have anybody out there in the news world, and we do have some people in the black news world that will approach him, but he'll never go on there. And not everybody sees those shows. But I'd like for him to come on this show, and I'll sick you on him, Colonel.
Oh, he don't want to see me. He never know. He doesn't want to see me because basically in a battle of wit, in a battle of knowledge, he's unarmed. I'd tear him up. And so
he probably wouldn't last 5 minutes because he'd get up and walk out and say, you're a very nasty person.
2 minutes. Wouldn't get in there for 2 minutes. Wouldn't last.
You could come back at him. You draft dodging.
Yeah, criminal. I'd have to, and
criminal.
Yeah, he's a criminal, but he's a mob boss. But that's the way it is. But
that's the way it is. Sound like Walter Cronkite. Yeah, that's the way it is in America.
That's the way it is. But I say one thing as we get ready to close is want everybody to go out here and support Black media. And as you see the scrolling at the bottom of this media, this is how you can support, like, subscribe, and share. And also you can send donations to the addresses below, because every penny that you send us helps us stay alive, and also to improve and to bring programming on that you will not hear anywhere else, especially on state-run TV in America. That's how I'll close.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll close by saying thanks for watching, the people that watch live and the people that watch later on, and especially the people that watch our shorts. Right after each show, we generate shorts, shorts of different comments that are made, and they really generate a lot of traction and a lot of views. And the shorts bring you back to the full video. But we have the capability now. If you're out there, you're watching, and you heard something we say, and you want to come on, I can actually bring you on live to talk with us if you want to, dispute something we said, or add to something we said, or you have something you might want to contribute. So keep that in mind when you're watching. Just let me know in the comments. I'd like to come on. I have something to say. We can't, and when we just do it one person a show, we can't let multiple people in unless you are invited guests. But we can let those who are watching, the one person or maybe two, it all depends on the subject, to come in, especially on these hot topic Mondays that we have, or we're just talking about anything that's in the news for that day or that week. We really look forward to maybe bringing somebody in that's watching that might have an opinion on it, especially if you disagree with us. We especially looking for those people that disagree, and I'll bring you on and you have conversations with the Colonel if you can take it.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you, and as the Colonel said, we appreciate your support, and please continue to support us so we can continue bringing you great content. And Leah, you had to go to work earlier today, but thanks for, excuse me, coming on and helping us out, or giving us some the information you gave us about the judges that have been appointed to replace the two that we are losing, that have that are like judges that are pretty much in the vein of the judges that we'll be losing. Okay, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time. Take care, Colonel.
Be our guest.